Oh my god, these ads. I've been reading for 7 years. I started reading when I was 16, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I got into it. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I'd do a fun little video basically telling you how I got into reading. I don't really know where to start, goodness. We're just going to get straight into it, and I'm just going to say that this all starts once upon a time with Wattpad. Yes, I am a Wattpad kid, and I honestly, for every new reader that becomes or like finds their love for reading, be it now or even like a year or two ago, I am very sad for them. They did not get to experience like 2018 Wattpad? What year was it when I was 16? Yes, so 2018 Wattpad was peak. And I am very sad that people don't get to experience that. Just the act of reading a story, it was almost like our Kindle. Like the act of reading a story and being able to read other people's comments. There would be like sections or paragraphs or sentences that had like 13,000 comments, and you'd be reading and you'd just open the comments and just read all the like absurd things that people had to say about it and all the jokes. And it was just, honestly, like I miss that time so much. Obviously, everything near enough was free back then. You could read literally like any story and it was free. And it was great. And I loved it. And I miss it so much. And it makes me so sad because I remember I went on Wattpad again a couple years ago and seen obviously that you literally have to pay for nearly all the stories now. And it's insane. I mean, I didn't have that much of a deep dive. There may be newer ones that you don't actually have to pay for now. But from what I've seen, you need to pay for a lot of them, which makes me very sad. But I remember reading one story on Wattpad when I was 13. Very questionable, don't ask. And then came back to it again when I was 16, and that was when it was absolutely just incredible, an unforgettable time. I think I had 4 core stories that absolutely were my kryptonite back then. And I remember the summer when I was 16, I hung out with my friends, but mostly I would stay up until 2, 3 a.m. reading on Wattpad, just sat there with my phone, and I would read for hours. And honestly, that's so rare for me nowadays, and it makes me really sad that a book will have my attention that much. But it was all fanfics, wasn't it? And it was all just like ordinary people like you and me who had no publishers writing these incredible stories. I'm sorry if the lighting keeps changing. I've got like the sun kind of blaring in, so I'm just trying to work with it. But anyway, we're just gonna get straight in. So, Chasing Red by Isabel Ronin. I own Always Red because I stupidly thought that this was the second book that wasn't on Wattpad. So I asked for this for Christmas years ago now because I was like, oh my goodness, I want to own all the OG Wattpad books. So Chasing Red was so long on Wattpad that when they published it, they had to split it into 2 books. And I stupidly thought this was just a second one that we hadn't seen, but it was, because I remember getting it and being like, oh my god, I'm so excited because I absolutely loved it, the first book. Sat down to read it and I was like, I've read this before. But for me, Caleb is one of the OG book boyfriends. Like, these men in these books really just created the perfect book boyfriend standard. So I believe it's about this rich guy and this poor girl. And this poor girl, we start in a club. Remember, this is the second like half of Chasing Red. So if you want to read Chasing Red, the first book is Chasing Red. I might put it up here while I talk. But so she goes clubbing one night and she's dancing, gyrating. Oh my god, do you remember that word? That was so commonly used. So she was dancing on the dance floor, vibing, doing her own thing, and he's sat at the bar and he's watching her. And then I think she goes to leave and she's pretty drunk, and then she like passes out on the sidewalk. He takes her back to his penthouse or something, and she stays the night, and she's like, they basically end up falling in love with each other, and she, I think, moves in to be his cleaner because obviously she's really, really poor. She's like on the streets or something, and he's obviously super rich, man's in a penthouse. And I ate this up. But I wish I could eat books up as much now that I did back then, because like it fills me with so much nostalgia. We all know he's watching her across the dance floor, the different tropes. Tropes have been done so many times. So obviously when you're reading it for the first time and it's fresh and you've never read that trope before and it just hits the spot, you know? It's like when you have bacon for the first time, and every time after that might be great, but it will never be like the first time you tried it. I just miss this time so much. Caleb was just... We then have Spitfire in Love, which is by the same author, which I also ate up. Cameron, the man that you are. There's something about those stories, and it's the fact that they're not... Is it her name Victoria? I believe so. I think it's Victoria in this one, and then we have... I've actually forgotten her name. But the girl in Spitfire in Love isn't your typical, like, needs to be saved woman. She's like a heroine. She's like the heroine of her own story. And it's just... I could talk about these books all day. But yes, Spitfire in Love was another absolute... I can't even find the right word. Absolute staple of a story in Wattpad time for me. We then have She's With Me by Jessica Consolo. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name. This was another just incredible one. Like, you can tell how old she is. Like, how yellow the spine is. Can I compare it to a newer book? Like, she's yellow. But yeah, so this is about Amelia, who goes to this new school, and I guess, honestly, now that I'm thinking of it, if you like the Boys of Tommen series, maybe you should try give this a go. Obviously, because it's from Wattpad and it's a bit older, it might be a bit cringy. I don't know how I'd feel about reading it now, but it's basically about this girl who moves to a new school, and there's this group of guys who are obviously this friendship group, and they all kind of protect her a little bit, I think. And there's obviously one that she's like got a massive crush on, and she's escaping this like dark secret past that she has, and I guess the guy tries to figure it out. If not, it just comes out anyway, and it's just really fun. There's 3 books. This was another staple for me. This wasn't as up there as Spitfire in Love and Chasing Red for me, but it was still very much up there. Which then leads us to talk about After. And After was the very first book that I read on Wattpad when I was 16. So that's kind of the first domino that set off all the others. I remember I read After across one whole summer, and I just absolutely loved it. I loved it with every fibre of my being. It changed my life. Like, it genuinely is what got me into reading. And I will, honestly, I don't care. The films may be crappy now, and I'm sorry, but that has to be said. The actor who plays the guy, I know he's British, but he puts on an even more British accent, and it just kind of ruins it. And the girl who plays Tessa, I'm really, really sorry for saying this, but hot take, she just can't act. It's so forced, and just, she definitely looks the part. She absolutely 100% looks like Tessa in real life, but she just can't act. And I feel like it ruined the films for me, because it's just awful acting, really, on both parts. But yeah, those books are my Roman Empire. After is my Roman Empire. So now, we've read all those books on Wattpad. We've started my reading journey, and I'm like, where do I go now? What physical books do I pick up? Where do I start? What genre do I pick? What authors? Where do I go to get these books? The reading world is my oyster. So for some reason, all these years later, after I finished with reading the main ones on Wattpad, and I was like, maybe I should start reading actual books. I must have been like 18 at this point, by the way. So Wattpad had its grip on me for a good couple years. I was like, okay, maybe I should pick up another Sophie Kinsella book. So I picked up I've Got Your Number and devoured it. It was incredible. The ending was so much of a plot twist for me at the time. Again, I don't know if it would be now, but I adored it. The premise of it as well, it's essentially about... This girl is engaged and she loses her engagement ring. I believe she's having not a bachelorette party, but some sort of night out with her girls, and then gets a bit tipsy and then loses her ring and her phone. So she then is by a bin and finds an abandoned phone in the bin. But I don't know how it ended up in the bin, but the owner of the phone wants it back. So she's using this phone and texting the owner of this phone, because he obviously has like a different one that he can text her back on. I'm guessing like a work phone, or that's the work phone, and he's texting her with his personal number. So I believe they like agree to give it back, but she's like, can I please have it for a certain amount of time? You're asking me to recite the premise of a story when I haven't read it in about, when I read it like 5 years ago. And then obviously her fiance is pretty crappy. We obviously have this texting going on between her and the owner of the phone, and it just was the very start of my physical book reading journey, which then devolved into a little something like this. This is all of the books by Sophie Kinsella that I own, bar one, because there's one book by her that I've read that I don't like, and that would surprise me. And the reason I don't like it is because there was no real story to it, no real plot to it until like the last 20%, and it was just very boring for me. But that's okay. That's the only book by her I don't like. So yeah, I mean, I just became a super fan of her. Like, you can genuinely tell how long I've owned these books, because this dark pink cover, compared to the spine, I remember I put them in favourite order. It brings back so many memories, and I honestly want to do a reread of all of these books, because so obviously Wattpad is very different. I don't know if I could go back and read those, because I wouldn't want to taint that at all, but I feel like obviously, especially as a published author, these books wouldn't be as bad. I don't feel like I'd ruin the view. Let me know if you want to see a video of me doing a reread of these books. I think I have 10 here. I have 11 here. I own 11 of her books. I remember this was the second book by her I read, and this is now a film with Alexandra Daddario and the guy from Teen Wolf. And I've seen that, and it was quite good actually. I did enjoy it. The premises to her stories are so good. Like this one, she's sat on a plane, and I believe she's on the phone. No, she's not on the phone. She is tipsy, I'm guessing. Why are all her protagonists tipsy? But anyway, she's sat on this plane, and she spills all of her secrets about everything and everyone she knows, and all the stuff going on in her life. She spills all her secrets to the stranger sitting next to her on the plane. But when the plane lands and she's starting this new job, or there's a new boss there, she realizes that that is the stranger. Or there's a 20s girl where we have a ghost that only she can see and hear. They start like helping each other and like working together. It's just so cool. My Not So Perfect Life, Chef's Kiss. I Owe You one's really good. The Undomestic Goddess, I think, is one of my favourites. We then have my prized possessions, which are 2 hardbacks that I ordered when they came out. I pre-ordered them, I'm sorry. Love Your Life, which is essentially about this girl who is fed up with online dating. So she goes on this retreat, meets this guy. They live this like incredible amount of time together, this like 2 weeks or whatever it is together. Then they go back home and try to continue their relationship and realise that their pets or their family or the personality quirks that they have is starting to kind of grate on them. And it's like can they learn to accept each other's differences and be together? And it's quite a sweet little novel, and this one is signed by the author. And then we have one of my favourites by her that I really, really want to reread, and this is The Party Crasher. This is also a signed copy. And her family is having this New Year's Eve party, I believe, but she's not invited. And then she remembers that something from her childhood is tucked away up in the attic that she desperately wants, so she decides to crash this party in a way where she basically is trying not to get noticed. And she bumps into her ex-boyfriend, and it's like their rekindling of what they had. And it's just so freaking good. Like, this story is, I honestly think like if I read this now, I would still love it as much as I did back then. So yeah, and Sophie Kinsella I just ate her books up for years. Like, she was, every time she released a new one, every time I found a new one I hadn't read, I'd buy it, I'd eat it up. I just absolutely loved her. Which then led me to think, right, I've loved Wattpad. That was a great time. I have adored reading Sophie Kinsella's books. Where do I go next? Or do I go anywhere next? I genuinely was thinking to myself, am I gonna enjoy other authors? Because I loved her style of writing so much. I loved the way that she wrote the stories, the way the plot was, the way it was created, that I was like, where do I go now? Do I go anywhere? I was like, is any other author ever gonna compare? I was like, is this it? Do I just stop my reading journey now? Quick drink break. I didn't tell you the bevy I was drinking. Liquid Death Severed Lime. The most unreal drink to ever exist. So I was kind of having a little look here and there in the supermarket and was thinking, I don't know if there's any more reading for me. And then I picked up the flat share, and I picked it up purely based on this little bit at the bottom. Tiffy and Leon share a bed. Tiffy and Leon have never met. And my little brain was like, how does that work? They share the flat, and it's a 1-bed flat, and Leon occupies it while she's at work in the day, and then she has it at night while he's at work. And then you've got obsessive ex-boyfriends, imprisoned brothers, family problems, and then they haven't met, and then they do, and it's so good. It's the first Beth O'Leary book I read, obviously. It was the first book I read outside of Sophie Kinsella and Wattpad, and I was like, okay, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could read, maybe I could become a physical reader. For some reason though, I have one very vivid memory of reading this, and I went outside to read it in the garden once, and I read it in the sun, and I wasn't under any coverage or anything, and I strained my eyes so much and got a really, really, really bad migraine. And I just vividly remember that about reading this book once. But I also read The Thursday Murder Club. I think this might have been around the same time, but this might have been a bit more recent, I'm not sure. That I really enjoyed, but for some reason I wasn't paying attention to the ending, so I actually don't know who the killer was. And obviously they've released a film now of The Thursday Murder Club, and I watched that the other night and I was so bored. It wasn't what I expected it at all. It wasn't how I envisioned the elderly village. It wasn't how I envisioned the characters. It wasn't how I envisioned the movie to play out, and I did not like it at all. But yeah, so The Thursday Murder Club was another one that I remember reading and very much enjoying, because I was trying to dabble in different genres. I was like, right, I've read my romance, I've had the romance, I read more, but what if I dabble in different genres and see what I like? So we read the romance, tried a bit of crime, sort of thriller, which then brings us into fantasy. Fantasy is my absolute everything. Everything. As soon as I opened the door to fantasy, romance was never the same for me ever again. I still enjoy romance, but it has to have different elements and added stuff to the plot now. I can't just read a bog standard romance, because fantasy has completely changed my life. So you may be thinking, Paige, where did you start with your fantasy journey? I actually don't remember how old I was when I started reading fantasy, but it was definitely after the flat share and stuff. So I was looking through the cupboards for something one day at home when I lived with my mum, and I remember finding a book. This book, to be exact. And I was like, hey, this looks cool. She's got birds in her hair. I was like, Mum, what's this? And she was like, oh, that's a book I read ages ago. You can have it if you want. I was like, you know what? And I don't know why the birds in the hair intrigued me, but I read the blurb and I was like, you know what? I'll give it a go. It sounds very cool. I think this was like roughly the same time I became obsessed with Fallen. I feel like I talk about Fallen in every freaking video. I'm really sorry. I watched the film 5 times in 1 week. I've seen it a total of like 10 or more times now. I was like, I wonder if this is anything like as good as Fallen. It's a book, so how could it be? And oh my god, this was the catalyst in my fantasy reading journey. This is where it all started. This is the one. She's very old. She's even going speckly. So then I went onto eBay, which I don't really do anymore, but I went onto eBay and bought the rest of the series. And I will say, I don't even know if this is in the right order. And it just got worse and worse as it went on. Like, genuinely, like, in order from best to worst, it would be the first book's the best and the fourth one's the worst. I feel like it did drag on a bit, but I feel as though I need to keep this out of obligation because it started my fantasy reading journey. It started my fantasy series reading journey. And this just was everything to me. Everything. So I believe it's about a girl who starts having visions. There's crows that mock her, animals follow her, glowing people that appear from nowhere. So her mum is worried she's having a mental breakdown and sends her to live with her grandmother, who lives on the dusty plains of New Mexico, where she crosses paths with Dace. And it is fated romance, it's in the title, but it just, and the friendship dynamics in it as well. There is just something about a well executed friendship group romance. Like, it makes the story. I don't think it would matter what happened, it just makes the story. And we go on not adventures, but like we go on adventures around this town and find stuff out, and it's just incredible. Like, I would recommend this to people, but I obviously would give you an advanced warning in saying that it does get worse as you go throughout the series, but it's still so worth it to me, and I will keep her forever. I love her. Another funny starting of a series was the second fantasy series I read, which was my absolute favourite above Fated until the next series I'm about to show you, and you'll understand why. But this series, the Graceling series, the Graceling series, it makes me so sad that this isn't talked about more. The covers are just absolutely unreal, and that is how I acquired them. So my best friend, for Christmas or my birthday one year, bought me, she was in the works, funnily enough, and she bought me the second and the fourth. So I received them and I was like, ooh, and she was like, I'm gonna be so real with you, I picked them up and bought them for you because it was a very last minute gift. She was like, I had all these others for you, but I needed to get you one more. I needed to get you some books. They looked good, so I bought them. Okay, all right. And I was like, love, and I searched it up and I was like, love, this is the second one. So it sat on my shelf for a couple of weeks. I ordered the first and I was like, okay, we're gonna give it a go. And it was just, I just can't get over the covers. They're just unreal. And it was just so good. So it's like all interconnected. They all know each other. They're all such different stories. Like the first one is about a couple that like travel through the woods and traveling across the land to try and find something. Fire is about a couple that's in this like mansion and he's like the stable boy or something and she's trying to escape something. Bitter Blue is my favourite. The third one is my favourite. And this follows the child from the first one, except she's grown up now. And she goes on this like sea voyage and she's like a queen of something and she's trying to find something. Can't really remember what Winterkeep is about, which is really bad. But like this series is just unreal. Now I just go read it. Like I'm really bad at these videos because I'm just like just go read it. There is a fifth one which I haven't read, but I want to do a reread of the whole series and then get the fifth one. But oh my goodness, these are just incredible. Like the third one is so good, and it's just the fact that the series is so diverse and we follow so many different fantasy tropes throughout this series. But it's incredible. This is a 5-star series for me from the first to the last book. Like I, at first, couldn't pick a favourite because I just loved them all so much. So this became my absolute favourite fantasy series of all time, above Fated, until ACOTAR. We all know her, we've all seen her, and I am sorry, but I am a full ACOTAR enthusiast. I haven't read Throne of Glass. And I haven't because I'm scared that my mind will change, because everyone is like, oh my goodness, I loved ACOTAR until I read Throne of Glass, which was better. I don't want her to be better. ACOTAR is my everything. I read ACOTAR when I was going through a really hard time in my life, and it honestly kind of saved me a little bit. I seen myself in Feyre so much, especially in the second one, until I read the fifth one. I was like, oh my god, Nesta is me, I am Nesta. I love Nesta, I love them all. They're like real human people who make real human mistakes, and I think people forget that sometimes. Books don't just have to be about perfect characters who always do the right thing. Books and the people and the characters in them can be human and make mistakes and do really bad things. You know, there's a double standard. Like men do it in dark romances, for example, all the time, but when a woman does it in a fantasy, why are we admonishing her? Do you know what I mean? Obviously, this is a heavily tabbed series for me. I didn't tab the first one because I was not yet aware of how much I would eat this series up. Also, for the people who say they didn't like the first one, what on earth are you talking about? I loved the first one. I was fully, maybe not for Tamlin, But I was fully invested and I absolutely loved it. Like it took me to chapter 3 to become invested, and that was it. That was literally it. Like I had to physically slow myself down because I was like, I don't want to read it too fast and for it to be over. And I remember I read the first, I read the second, I read the third. Was not ready to move on to the fourth nor the fifth. Went back and reread the second, then read the fourth. Like I genuinely, this is my absolute, Wattpad may be my Roman Empire that started this all, but ACOTAR is the hill I will die on in terms of being the best, and I refuse to hear any criticism. Refuse. So that just opened my world for me. Those 3 series, I fear I'm gonna read them like freaking 7 to 10 times in my lifetime because they're just unreal. We then move into the final part of my reading journey that then flows me on into all of this and everything else. That is book talk. That is book talk. And that leads me to the very controversial Colleen Hoover. Obviously there was a whole lot of controversy around her, and I would just like to start this by saying I am a very firm believer in supporting the art but not the artist. I will enjoy a book if the author is not an ethical person or a morally good person. I fully just have to separate myself from that. Obviously, if I go into something or I go to pick something up and know that they have done questionable things or wrong things, then I'll be less inclined to pick it up. But I had been reading Colleen Hoover for a while before certain things came out about her. So that is just my little preface. But I, unlike other people, actually started with November 9th. This was given to me as a present one year by one of my friends, and I remember sitting at her table at the Christmas party that she hosts with her family every year, and I was sat with all my friends there. We were all opening each other's presents, and I opened this, and because we always get each other a book every year, and I opened this and I was like, ooh, and she was like, have you heard about her on TikTok or online? And I was like, I have, but not very much. And I read this and it was so good. Like, you can't deny that her writing style is very much, how to describe it, her writing style is very addictive. It's very much, I guess one might explain it as trash TV. It's so bad, but you can't look away. But like the writing style isn't objectively bad. It's just very much, it appeals to people who aren't very big readers, I guess, and who need a book that's gonna enrapture them. But then does that not then make it good writing because it's enrapturing people who don't read? I don't know. I really enjoyed this one. And then I read the classic that everyone has read, It Ends With Us, and I absolutely loved it. I loved it at the time. I thought it was incredible. Didn't know what direction it was going to take, and I didn't know what to expect, and it just made it so much better. I'm genuinely keeping it because it is a classic for me. I also read Confess, which I actually really liked and could see myself rereading. It's got pictures in it, and it's just, her stories always have an emotional or kind of strong message in them. But my favourite book by her, is definitely Verity. Like, it sent such chills up my spine. Like, it's, I think, the first thriller I read that I sat there and I felt like there was someone standing over my shoulder watching me the entire time. And the scene on the stairs where she stood at the top of the stairs, I will never stop talking about that. Like, if you read any Colleen Hoover book, it has to be Verity. And I'm really upset with myself because I read it and then I sold it. And I remember I listed it on Vinted and it sold really fast. And I'm so sad I sold it. I would love to own it and I would love to read it again. And then I suppose we have the holy trinity of book talk, which is The Love Hypothesis, The Unhoneymooners, and Hating Game. I've read this 3 times now, I think. Obviously they're adapting it into a movie. I kind of love who they chose. I don't know how I feel about Lily Reinhart playing her, but I think she dyed her hair for the role, which just makes it better. But I really do like the guy they've chosen for him because he's hot, quite frankly. But this is just such a cute, just chef's kiss story. And it's one of those, these 3 books are one of those cases where I'm like, I want to reread them every year. I haven't done that yet this year, but I've done that the last few years. We also have The Hating Game, the film. I can't bring myself to watch because the guy in it does not look anything like how I pictured him. But this and the love languages in this and him taking care of her when she's ill and the ending, with the wallpaper, or sorry, the paint colour. Oh, love, 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 love. And then the Unhoneymooners, classic, easy to read. You've got like different like formats in here. You've got like texts and stuff, and it's just one of those books that just hit at the time. Would it hit as good now? I don't know. But I did recently read another book by Christina Lauren and loved it. I need to get more books from her. If you have any recommendations for books by Christina Lauren, please let me know, because I would love to read more of her. And then obviously that then leads into this whole world of the Inheritance games and Fourth Wing and the Twisted series and the Knock 'Em Out series, and I just ate them all up, and it was such an incredible time, and I would love to go back and almost relive this journey because it was incredible. And books are so different now. Like, a book I read the other day was pretty much a spitting image of another kind of more classic book from sort of mid 2018 or 2019, and it makes me sad when books do that, because they're not, I don't feel like some books are very original nowadays. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you got this far, comment your favourite book that you have from when you first started reading in the comments. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon for the next one. Bye guys!